Hi there folks. I recently had a request from one of my viewers to do a video about reloading the 3-inch shotgun shell on a Lee Lodahl or Lee Lodahl 2 shotgun shell reloading press. So that's what this little video is going to be about. This is a 2 3/4 inch shell here, and this is a 3-inch shell, both fired of course. And there really isn't much in the way of adjustment for this machine to adapt it from loading this shell to this shell. The only thing that you change in the machine is the wad guide here. And basically the wad guide is moved up 1/4 of an inch to accommodate the extra height of this shell. So you can see with the shorter 2 3/4 inch shell, it slides very nicely underneath the wad guide as it's currently set up. But if we try to do that with the 3-inch shell, it's going to run into the bottom of the machine. We only need one tool to change this wad guide over from the lower hole to the top hole in the machine, and that tool is a 1/4 inch nut driver, or alternatively a slotted screwdriver. So we'll move around to the back of the machine and we'll show you that. What we're looking at here is the back side of the machine, and more specifically we're looking at the aluminum column that the head rides up and down on. And there's this 1/4 inch, basically a 1/4 inch self-tapping screw with a hex head on it. And all we have to do is remove that. You can use either the hex driver, the 1/4 inch socket driver, hex driver, or you can also use a slotted screwdriver because it is slotted as well. So just unscrew that, and there's our fastener there, and there's the wad guide. Okay, there's the back side of the wad guide, and you can see that there are 2 holes in the wad guide. Normally when you're loading 2 3/4 inch shells, the screw would go through the top hole, and that will hold the wad guide in a lower position. So when you want to load 3-inch shells, you simply take the screw out and reinsert it into the bottom hole. If you've never had the machine switched over to 3-inch before, the bottom hole will be much smaller because it kind of gets expanded by the screw when it goes into it. So we'll just put the wad guide back on the machine here. Actually, we'll put the screw through the hole first, and then we'll select the bottom hole, and that will position the wad guide at the higher spot, and therefore that'll allow it to have a 3-inch shell put in place underneath it. So exceedingly simple job to do. Obviously it takes longer to describe than it does to actually do. I'm going to be loading a 1 5/8 ounce charge of number 2 lead shot in these shells. And I'm not going to go into any great detail on how to load shells with this machine because I have done a fairly in-depth video on how to load shells using the Lee Lodahl, and how to set the machine up and so forth and so on. So I'll put links to those. Reloading a 3-inch shell on this machine is basically the same as loading a 2 3/4 inch shell. We'll start off with the shell, the fired shell. We'll put it in the very first station with the sizing ring over the top of it. Press the sizing ring down over the shell and press out the old primer. Move the shell over to the second station. This pushes the sizing ring off the shell and also seats the primer, which was previously placed in the priming station. You can see the primer is nicely flush with the bottom of the case. With our wad guide moved up, it's easy to put the shell underneath the wad guide. So we'll now drop a charge of powder. Next we'll add the appropriate wad, and then we'll drop our shot charge on top of the wad. Next we'll move the shell over to the crimp starting station. This happens to be a 6-point crimp, and for that we need to use the back station. The front station is for the 8-point crimp. To properly index the shell with the crimp starter, you need to position one of these folds directly to the front, so the groove should be lined up with the very front of the machine. That will start the crimp properly. This is where things are a little bit different than when working with the 2 3/4 inch machine. Normally you can push the machine or the handle all the way down to the bottom to where this portion of the machine contacts the top surface of the base, but because there's a 1/4 inch difference in the shell height, you can't come down quite as far. So this is sort of a by feel thing. Come down, apply some pressure, and check your progress. As you can see, the crimp has started very nicely using a moderate amount of pressure. So it's better to get the feel for this. No need to exert any more pressure on the machine or the shell than necessary. And we can move from there over to the final crimping station. And once again, this portion of the machine would normally come down almost to the bottom when you're crimping a 2 3/4 inch shell. But with a 3 inch shell, obviously there's going to be about a 1/4 inch of space there. So once again, this becomes a matter of sort of trial and error and getting the feel for how much pressure to apply to get a good crimp. So don't be afraid to do this in steps and see how you get along. That's working out not too bad. We have a little bit of crumpling on the edge of the shell, but no big deal. If you apply too much force here, it's possible to crush the shell. And that's a pretty decent looking crimp on that one. So that's a 6-point crimp. So there you go. Loading 3 inch shells is basically the very same process as loading a 2 3/4 inch shell, and it'll make a good job of these shells as long as the load fits the hull properly, and you can get a pretty good crimp. As you can see here, these crimps turned out to be pretty decent. 6-point crimps. Of course, you can do 8-point crimps as well on the same machine without any further adjustments. Just use the front station as opposed to the back one. Anyway, hopefully that clarifies the question about how to do 3 inch shells on your Lee Loadoll. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.